So imagine you're buying a piece of land and it's your dream home. Come to find out you can't build anything on that property, or maybe you can't build what you thought you wanted to build. Let's talk about zoning and why it's so important here on today's Walk and Talk, where we talk about some land. We've talked about how to buy land, utilities, all sorts of things. Today, we're going to talk about some zoning and some county issues that you need to pay attention to. And every state's a little bit different on top of that. Some counties don't even have zoning and health permits and all sorts of crazy stuff that we have here in Virginia, and some have way more. So before you get too excited about, no one's going to tell me about building on my land, because that's how I feel about it. But ultimately, like, I can promise you, you don't want to pick a war with some of these counties. Like, it is what it is. We don't need any killdozers going around. So let's simplify it real quick. Zoning is just a set of rules that any county and state puts on their property to what you can do on it. A good understanding is residential is going to be the county's understanding of what they want for housing. Agriculture is more agricultural land. You could still have a house on agriculture land. You could still have a lot that's 1 acre lot that's zoned agriculture. It's the zone in which they thought, this is what we want for our county. You also have industrial, you have commercial. Every county usually has some sort of future map that they're using to make decisions on when they're doing rezonings and stuff like that. And this is sometimes where you might see that house that's surrounded by parking lots, because that was a house at one point, and then the county decided to switch and make that more of industrial commercial, and then you had one landowner that just held out. Well, they buy a piece of property and they think, I'm gonna do whatever I want on it. And then they come to find out, and then the county says, absolutely not. You're not doing that at all. And then you can't get permits, and then you can't get drain field, you can't get a well, you can't touch into the county water and sewer because you don't have permits, and you can't do anything on that property that you thought you wanted to do. Let me give you some other examples. You buy a piece of property on residential zoning and you want to build a couple houses on it. Zoning might have a minimum acreage, and every acreage, depending on the zone, might be different. Agriculture might require X amount. Residential might require this amount of acreage before you can divide it. And so you might be caught just with one house when your plan was, say, 5 houses. Airbnbs is a huge one. Some zonings don't allow for short-term rentals. So if your game is the short-term rental, a lot of counties have been caught with their pants down with these short-term rentals. So we've had whole cities now that have X'd these things out of their zoning to make sure no short-term rentals come in. Or some counties might require some sort of permit for short-term rentals. I had a guy that one time wanted to buy a winery. That was the first thing we did. We called all the counties and talked to all the business development and all the zoning planners and talked to them about what kind of properties we need to look for in their county to make it make sense. We don't want to go spin our wheels buying a property that's never going to be a winery or never going to be multifamily, or plug in whatever you're planning on doing. I'll give you one last example. I had a guy one time who's buying like 4.9 acres, and he just wants to put a detached garage on. He has a trucking company, so he wants to keep trucks at this property, and so he just wanted a big detached garage where he could keep his truck, so he didn't have to drive as much. We buy the property. I told him to talk to the county. Guess it wasn't clear because the county had a 5 acre minimum to build a detached garage. And he had to build a little teeny house to then have a detached garage. He couldn't just build the garage. And we're talking about 1/10 of an acre was the reason this got shot down. And I know half of you are like, what are they gonna do? But I mean, you can't get utilities without going through the county. Like, they will shut you down. So why does this matter? The short answer is, I never want you to buy a piece of property and then not be able to do what you intended to do on it. Because zoning laws, while they are a pain in the butt, they do kind of protect the area as well. It makes it so someone can't open up a gigantic junkyard right beside me or build a $1 billion water park right on top of me. So zoning does play a role to help protect the homeowners as well. There's one thing that gets all this straight, and this is something I tell every one of my buyers to do. Call the county, talk to them, dive deep on what you're planning on doing, get it in writing. That's as simple as it comes. So why don't you tell me the craziest story you've ever had when it comes to dealing with the county? Because we've done these where we talked about perking and septic and well, and man, the comments just go wild about like the differences between the counties and the states, and how some places like this is public knowledge versus other places is private knowledge. All right, guys, my name is Ben Quann. I'm associate broker here in Virginia. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.